So today is day one of VEDA, aka Blog Every Day in April. And even though I have a million things that I should be doing right now, finishing my undergrad, I thought that I'd, give it a go. I really didn't know what I should talk about, and they say you should talk about what you know. And what do I know right now? Essay topics! Woo! So I'm finishing up the essay for my werewolf class, aptly titled Violence, Identity, and Change, the Werewolf Renaissance of the 12th Century. So for my essay, I'm looking at the character of Remus Lupin, and how Remus Lupin is described and how he stands in the community, and how there are two different versions of Lupin. You have the Lupin who everybody knows and loves, who is the professor who inspires his students, and then there's the Lupin who is a werewolf. I'm also looking at the language Rowling uses to describe Lupin's werewolfery, specifically how it bounces between werewolfery being described as an illness or just a social prejudice. The language to describe Lupin always bounces back and forth between the language of illness, saying that he's sickly, or the language of social stigma, saying that he's of a lower economic class standing. I'm also looking at how Lupin is afraid of his werewolf side, specifically the scene where he's teaching the class about Bogarts, and the Bogart takes the form of the sphere, which turns out to be the moon, and how Lupin is afraid of what he's capable of doing, and he's afraid of the loss of control and the animalistic nature of his werewolf. How Lupin is a very controlled character, so that werewolf side of him is kind of like the release of his id. So you're probably wondering how this ties back to the Middle Ages. Well, I'm going to be looking at Marie de France's Werewolf les Bisclavret, which I'm going to probably pronounce differently every time I say it in this video. Bisclavret is a werewolf knight, and every week he goes away for 3 days into the woods and transforms into a werewolf, and it's very ambiguous what he does. It doesn't say what he eats, so a lot of theorists think that he might actually be eating people. So he's a lot more comfortable with his werewolf nature. So I'm comparing how Bisclavret's werewolfery is natural versus Lupin's, who is unnatural, and how Bisclavret seems like a voluntary werewolf. He lets himself transform, he goes into the woods, he takes off his clothes, he becomes a werewolf, he does a thing, and he comes back. Where Lupin, he's forced to transform with the change of the moon. One of the things I always tell me in school is that you have to have a reason, like what is your so what about your paper? And I would have to say that my so what, why I'm writing this, is to look at how the narratives have changed and how Bisclavret is kind of, well, he's kind of a dick, but he's considered sympathetic, where Lupin, who, yes, he has his faults, but he is a much nicer person than Bisclavret, and Lupin now seems more sympathetic because he doesn't have the control. This is something that happens to him, and we feel sorry for him because we know we know this is hard for him to go through. The main story in Bisclavret is that he goes away every week, 3 days, turns into a werewolf, comes back. His wife is all like, okay, what are you doing? Why are you gone? Are you cheating on me? Tell me what's happening. And when he tells her that he goes into the woods, takes off his clothes, and becomes a werewolf, she freaks out, gets scared, tells one of the other knights that, okay, go into the woods, steal his clothes, so he's stuck as a werewolf forever, because that's how it works in the Middle Ages. So now he's stuck in the woods, his wife marries the knight who saved her, and eventually the king comes along, is hunting in the woods, runs into the wolf, and the wolf proves to him that he is sentient and not a soulless creature. And so the king's like, oh, this is great, I have a wolf buddy now. So eventually the king runs into Bisclavret's former wife, and Bisclavret attacks her, and the king thinks, wait, this wolf never has done anything wrong, never has attacked another person. There must be a reason why he's attacked this one woman. And so eventually they torture the woman. She says, oh, well, he was my husband and I trapped him into the form of a wolf. Bisclavret is given his clothes back, he becomes a man again, he's happy, the king's happy, the wife is shamed, which medieval shame culture is a completely different topic altogether. So basically, to come full circle, I'm looking at how werewolfery isolates people from the community and society. So in the case of Lupin, he can't fit into the Muggle society because he's a werewolf and a wizard. He can't fit into the wizarding society because he's a werewolf. And he can't fit into the werewolf society because he does not want to be a werewolf, he wants to be a wizard, and he shows signs of not giving up on that wizarding aspect of himself. So in the case of Bisclavret, he's able to overcome the stigma towards the werewolf, because he's able to come back to society after spending time as a werewolf and enter society in the form of a werewolf, and when he's freed, he's just welcomed back with open arms. The Bisclavret narrative also isn't very clear whether he stays as a human forever or if he continues his 3-day transformation thing, having spent so long as a werewolf. I think it's around a year. Would that be enough for him to, you know, deal with the whole, okay, I'm done with the wolfish aspect of my personality? So I'm really interested in how these two characters approach their werewolfery and how the contemporary view versus the medieval view towards werewolves. And I'm almost done, I'm just tweaking the assignment, I'm going to be handing it in tomorrow morning. If you have any ideas or questions, just post them in the comments, or head on over to the Death of the Author reviews page, and I'm going to be creating a forum sometime today to just continue this discussion. So yeah, I will see you guys later.